Hello, everyone. Welcome to this panel session, Museums and NFTs, A Love Story. My name is Frances Liddle. I'm a lecturer in cultural practices at University of Manchester, and I also work with Iconic Moments, an NFT platform dedicated to cultural institutions. I'm also a researcher working at the intersection of museums and NFTs, and my PhD, which I completed early this year, was one of the first pieces of empirical research done on NFTs and museum practices. It is my great pleasure to present today this panel. Certainly, when I began my PhD in 2018, it felt like quite a lonely place. So speaking now in 2022 and with these experts here, most importantly, museums who are actually using NFTs is just incredibly exciting and just shows how far we have come and hopefully where we're going as well. So to introduce our panel, we have Diane Drube, who is the founder of We Are Museums, a community-powered think tank on the future of museums. She's also a visual artist and the head of arts and culture at TZ Connect, the Tezos hub in Berlin, where she facilitates collaboration and leads strategy around Web3 future prototyping across arts and culture. We have Tamar Clark-Brown, who is the arts and technologies curator at the Serpentine Galleries in the UK. Her work centres around alternative world-building practices with a specific focus on platforming marginalised voices. And in 2023, supported by Tezos, Art Technologies will launch an experimental video game led by the artist Gabriel Massan called Third World as part of the Altus World series. So very much looking forward to hearing more about that. We have Alfred Verdinger, who is the director of the Upper Austrian State Museums, including the Francisco Carolina Museum of Photography and Media Art and the OK Centre of Contemporary Art, as well as the DFC at the CryptoVoxels Metaverse. And his research focuses on classical modernism and contemporary photography, as well as media art. And lastly, we have Christina Leopold, who is the commercial director of Berlin's innovative art foundation, Light Art Space, which focuses on collaborations between art, science, and technology. She is also the founder of Artpreneur, a think tank dedicated to generating new possibilities at the intersection of art, tech, and business. She also co-founded the launch of Women in Tech, an online community that fosters networks between women working in the hybrid field of art and technology. So welcome all four of you. I thought today it would be worth thinking about this conversation first in kind of two parts. First, thinking about kind of what are the kind of principles driving museums and certainly what has kind of initiated this relationship, and then thinking about how this relationship is starting to be embedded or support our practices within museums and cultural institutions. So, Diane, obviously, we had the pleasure of working together on the WAC Weeklies, or Web3 Arts and Culture Network. And with that, of course, we had this amazing opportunity to speak to so many different museum professionals. And from those conversations, and of course, with your work with TZ Connect, what do you feel are the principles that are driving conversations around museums and NFTs?
Good morning, everyone, first. So we actually started the program Web3 for the Art and Culture last year in December. It's a long program. It's actually a 9-month program that we are about to revive with a season 2. It's a program with different formats. We have Work Weekly, which is weekly conversations trying to explore how museums can use blockchain technology in different ways, but also trying to understand what are the main challenges, the main blockage, and the main opportunities. It's a beautiful space to actually explore, experiment, brainstorm, and network. And then we have this long fellowship, which is actually 8 weeks fellowship, where Light Art Space Foundation was part of the fellows, where we really explore further and we try to experiment with one use case. At the end of this fellowship, we had a huge hackathon where we actually provided some prizes for some teams to prototype new products. At the end of Aussie's first season, we had the pleasure to have one experiment being implemented in the current exhibition of Light Art Space Foundation with Yan Cheng in Berkheim-Halle in Berlin. But I will let Christina tell us more about it. But the main principle, I think, it's exploration, experimentation. It's really trying to understand what can be done. We are totally still at the beginning. Some people are saying that it's already the second or third or fourth generation of blockchain art. To my mind, we are still really, really much at the beginning, and we should not think that anything is set on the stone, in stone. It's really we really need still to invent new ways of using blockchain and exploration, experimentation, brainstorming, testing, implementing, and then failing and maybe learning. This process is really part of the journey that museums are currently leading. And for the first time, I've been working for 15 years with museums. For the first time, I actually believe museums are not late. I actually believe museums are really being innovative and really leading the way. We've seen already different things happening, good or bad, but that's actually not the point. The point is to experiment. The point is to dare, taking this technology and trying to do something.
Yeah, I think you're so right. I think this role of experimentation is so important, but also it feels slightly contradictory to talk about experimentation at museums. Certainly museums are well known for being quite slow and certainly very risk averse. Would you mind expanding a little bit more about kind of what have you found to be the kind of sticking points around this? What have museums been kind of I want to say almost scared of in terms of this role of experimentation with NFTs?
I think we should maybe ask museums directly about it.
Any thoughts from the panel?
I mean, nice to meet you all, or nice to be on the panel with you all. My name's Tamar, as you've introduced us. I think, speaking from a Serpentine perspective, we have, we've just celebrated, we're a legacy institution, but we've just celebrated our 50th anniversary. But in a similar way, we're very much known for kind of like experimentation. What does it mean to be an institution that's very interdisciplinary, that's very experimental? It means that you have to kind of put, really focus on the role of like the public. What's public interest? What does evolution mean in that context? So I think for us, it's we've been embracing the space of blockchain for a number of years now. We are, as our digital team, or now our arts technologies team, our name has even changed. We have really, we began in kind of around 2014, and it was really this question of what does it mean to engage with digital strategy at a museum? What does it mean to engage with digital strategy, in a gallery space? And it's always kind of been a case of, leaning into that experimentation again, but again, like not being afraid to fail, really, working with artists that are critical of these technologies and working with artists that are not so involved in something as like a hype cycle, but really trying to take a sort of a long-term perspective on things from the beginning and saying, it's essential to be critical from the beginning and really, really workshop things in order to sort of reach somewhere that can be implemented on a longer term. So in a similar way, as we work, we often think about the things we do as prototypes. So the basis of the Arts Technologies team focuses on this kind of evolving R&D platform through which we're able to kind of, not only bring in certain projects and prototype through certain projects with blockchain, for example, but also, we do kind of allow that space to fail. We're really proud to be able to kind of build certain teams around each project we do as well, and to be able to kind of, network with people, build advisors, and bring different voices into the project and perspective from the beginning in order to really sort of take it apart and be like, what can happen?
Any other thoughts from the panel?
Okay. Thank you so much for having us here again. Nice being with you on a panel again. As you already mentioned, so LIS is an innovative art foundation bridging art, science, and tech. We primarily commission new works of art, which are often site-specific, so that's what we do. So exploring new technologies is just natural. It's that's what we want to do. This is part of our mission. That's what we do, or the artists we work with are doing already. So when I spoke to Diane probably a year ago, and you introduced the Web3 Fellowship to me, it was just the right moment. And I think not really knowing in the beginning where this would lead to and what an outcome can be. I think we involved, it was not just me, like a couple people from the team participated, and there were various ideas. And I think the NFT, I always had NFT ticket kind of in my mind. And we ended up in this amazing collaboration, which is, I think, very different from how we started. So it's a journey. It's a lot about exploring, about experimenting. Of course, you need like a team, an artist who is really curious and interested in exploring something new. And I want to say, with a tech partner like Tezos, it's been possible,
Yeah, which I think highlights a really important idea that actually we were just talking about before the panel. And that's the idea of collaboration, and how much actually I think museums need this concept. And I think all four of you can speak to this. How important do you see collaboration being in this kind of process of establishing this relationship between museums and NFTs and just Web3 more generally?
I mean, museums, they need help, they need collaborations. The problem is that usually I can't talk that often to my colleagues about those art NFTs or in general digital art, because no one is involved with, no one has any ideas about. So this is really the big problem what I have. I mean, in the world I'm coming from is the world of government and state museums. And I don't have any partners to talk about. I came from the Ukraine. I was in Kiev just a few days ago, and the first talk I had to a museum art director was the director from the Museum of Art in the Ukraine, and she did an NFT stamp, an art stamp, 2 years ago. So it's really amazing. And when I take a look, when I go back to Austria, so there's almost nothing until now. So that's a problem. But what I mean is, they need collaborations. We have collaborations, and then I guess it's growing. But we have to give them a chance. So it's digital art, and especially we as a museum. So we're holding a digital art collection. We are really taking care of it, and we also our collection is growing with art NFTs. So we have a quite nice collection in the meanwhile. I guess 200, 250 works, whatever. Of course, we have a special focus, but behind every purchase, behind every donation is a collaboration.
250 NFTs in your permanent collection. That's impressive.
It is. I was just going to add that I think from our side also collaboration is key. A lot of the way that in terms of the R&D platform, for example, a lot of the way that we've built is from appreciating and knowing the value of collaboration, the value of networks, the value of having other people around you to kind of support as you're researching and growing. So, for example, the first lab we had through our R&D platform was something called the Blockchain Lab, which is headed up by someone called Penny Rafferty and Ruth Catlow. They've just launched an incredible book called Radical Friends, which is really kind of a big primer on DAOs, actually. But through that, we've been able to see and really work with artists and thinkers and creatives and other museums, other galleries to really, see that if we are going to build out into this space, everything does need to be collaborative, needs to be interoperable. We recently about to publish our new version of a publication called Future Art Ecosystems. Every year, this will be the third one. Every year we publish a report called Future Art Ecosystems that it's kind of looking at what we need to build a new cultural infrastructure. The first one focused on, what does new cultural infrastructure look like? The second one was focused on art and the metaverse. The third one will be focused on hybrid worlds, coming out in November. But throughout all of this, there are kind of key vectors that we identified, I suppose, if we want to kind of keep building in this space and keep supporting artists, working with digital technologies, working with advanced technologies. and one of the key things was interoperability, was building alongside each other and learning from each other's failures, from each other's growth, from each other's ideas. So, it's incredibly key for us, and we're increasingly trying to find ways to do that more, whether or not that's, launching Discords with projects that we do and opening that out, or whether that's just having conversations or being in conversations like this,
I'm really glad you brought up Ruth Catlow and Penny's book, actually, because I'm reading that at the moment. It's so good. And also, of course, the way Serpentine was thinking about blockchains in collaboration with Further Field actually very much, supported my thinking and my ideas for my PhD. And with that in mind, I think, the fact that these galleries have been in the space for so long, how has your research in this area evolved and also extended to your practice?
Me again. I have to acknowledge the wider Serpentine team here. I think it's really important also that we, equally, Tezos evolved, designed to evolve, so are we. So we have been growing, and the people that are leading, are my wider team: Victoria Ivanova, Ava Yeager, Alex Boyce, Roisin McVeigh, Kay Watson, and was Ben Vickers, who kind of started the arts tech team. But all of these people are, incredible researchers in the space as well, leading different parts of the program. In terms of blockchain and NFTs itself, so currently I'm leading on a project called Artist Worlds. Third World is going to be a video game that is supported and powered by Tezos, the Web3 strategy part of it. And through this, I think we're really, and myself included, are very proud to be very artist-led. So, we're looking for the next phase of the project, and it was, Artist Worlds itself is really focused on ideas of world building, technology and world building. Found an incredible artist called Gabriel Massan, Brazilian artist, Berlin-based, who had been in the NFT space for a little while, experimented with it, and was really keen to sort of answer new questions with it. Similarly to us, what are the civic potentials of NFTs, for example? How can we use NFTs to expand and kind of help build a different kind of creative ecosystem, or like a different, help to support a new creative infrastructure? So through that, we've really been kind of, experimenting. We're in it at the moment. We're very much workshopping at the moment. But it's really looking at how we can also, potentially through this game, help to support players to create their own value through generating these NFTs. What can we do to, for example, support the, I suppose, failures of creative infrastructures, especially within Brazil, in terms of supporting certain artists, certain communities, certain voices? Is there a way that playing through this game, generating certain NFTs, people can also take the value that they put into the game and use it to kind of, build their own worlds also?
That's really interesting, and I think actually relates really nicely to what LAS is doing as well. And Christina, I wonder if you wouldn't mind just expanding a little bit about kind of your latest exhibition and your work with Tezos as an institution.
Definitely. This works better. So the exhibition Ian Cheng, Life After Bob, is on right now until November 6th. So for everyone who didn't have a chance yet to see the exhibition, please come and experience the exhibition, but also the NFT experience, which is really an integral part of it. The exhibition is a commission by LS. It's basically a cinematic experience, a 50-minute long narrative film that we translated into an exhibition. So basically, the world of the film, we tried to make this experienceable for the audience. And this project, so one of the curators, Liz, is here in the audience. She's probably a lot better in explaining the exhibition in detail than me. But this is a project we've been planning for a very long time. And once we started thinking about NFTs as part of, or mainly as part of, like the fellowship, I think we involved the artist studio and of course the Tezos team to come up with an idea, So, and basically, the artist developed an idea on how to integrate NFT technology, making this an experience, basically adding an experience to the exhibition, which is really a journey for the visitor. And then conversation started with Tezos on how can we implement this from a technical perspective. So basically, it's everyone who visits the exhibition has the opportunity to live mint an NFT. It does a lot more, though. It's really basically the first, when you enter the exhibition, it's what you are being confronted with first, because it's nicely, and I think visually really nicely done. It's very special. The visitor is asked to give a nickname and a birth date, and an algorithm developed by the artist studio will then generate a prompt, a very individual prompt. So every visitor gets like a wristband with a QR code. Basically, this is a guidance, a kind of a psychological guidance through the exhibition. Then, after having experienced the exhibition and seen the film, the visitor has an opportunity. The visitor is guided into a room with a big screen, and it's like similar to an airport screen, like the name, the nickname, as well as the prompt will show up, and this then can be minted into an NFT. So it's like very personal, very intimate, and every visitor is for free, obviously, can mint an NFT and take it home. I think it's a really nice, it's really part of the exhibition. But it's also a memory, and this is what I think we're still going to talk about this a bit later, like the observations we did when speaking to visitors, asking them how did they like the experience, what did they take away, what are they planning on doing with the NFT, did they really learn anything? So this is like, we've done some surveys, but I'm of course curious to talk with you about this as well. So it's like a memory, basically. People can take home a memory, a very personal memory of the exhibition.
And if I may, what is also really interesting is that it's live generative art made by the algorithm, made by the artist, and it's live minted. And I was checking the numbers this morning, and we have around 25% of visitors doing the journey until the end and receiving the NFT on their wallet. It might be quite complicated when you talk about it right now, just like opening the wallet, then having the wristband, and then receiving the NFT. But it's so integrated within the visitor journey that it's really truly part of the experience. And people are really having fun. You really see people waiting for their name and then taking a picture of their name and their prompt and then putting it on Instagram or so. It's creating this really nice moment always within the museum space where visitors are sharing, what is yours? Have you already minted? Why is it not working? Can I help? It is creating this moment of conviviality. Which is not often the case when you visit a museum. And I saw some people starting to talk with each other. It is, creating really nice moment, really nice shared moment and memory, I think.
I think that just to add to that, I think there's definitely, it feels like it's going to counteract that kind of, often when you go into a gallery space and people are not sure, they're kind of looking at each other for how they should navigate something, and there is that I don't know, discomfort maybe. And I think a lot of the way that I still need to visit. I've heard a lot about it, seen a lot of videos, but I'm really excited about the way that this can, prompt a different kind of engagement with art and different kind of engagement with each other, different kind of engagement with the stories and the content of the art as well. We talk about a lot about this something called the UX of art, which is something we're kind of trying to champion and lead, and really this is exactly what we're talking about when we say that. What's the user experience? What is the audience experience? How is it changing? how expectations changing, how possibilities of, opening up access to conversations, to experiences changing. And I think similarly with Third World, we're really excited about, thinking into this space of memory. What can you do with something that's personal that you take away? How can that be a transformative moment, not only for yourself, but also kind of thinking about future economies and, creator economies and things like this. So really excited to also, the game will also have a live activation at Serpentine in February, and we're really excited to also learn from what you've done and talk to you as well and see what we can do as well.
And I think that's the thing, is that with NFTs, when we're thinking about how can they be implemented in museums, it's perhaps not thinking them as things in themselves, but actually how they can be an extender or mediator of the messages or ideas that we like to translate in our collections or our exhibitions. Alfred, I'd love to turn to you now, because your work within kind of metaverses and online exhibitions, I think it adds a kind of interesting kind of parallel to this conversation. Would you mind just expanding a little bit about your work with some of your metaverse exhibitions?
Yeah, so at the moment we have 3 exhibitions on art NFTs, 2 in our museums and 1 in our metaverse at CryptoVoxels. So we, let's say almost 2 years ago, we started with our first art NFT exhibition. It's called Proof of Art. Jesse Damiani was the curator, and we've got really huge success, and the catalog became a kind of Bible, as we were early birds. And at the same time, we started at the Metaverse CryptoVoxels, our space DFC, which is called Digital Francisco Carolinum, which is one of our museums from the 19th century, where we're having right now the Metaspace exhibition, which is about the history of the Metaspace, Metaverse. And what we realize is that we really have to explain what we're doing. This was also the reason at the beginning why we are doing an exhibition why we did an exhibition like Proof of Art, because we realized that the audience had no idea about art NFTs, even no idea about blockchain, and the same happens also on the artist side. So we had very few artists who had knowledge. In the meanwhile, it's becoming better and better and better, I have to say. And I really like this, the project what you did, and it's exactly the way what you have to do. So we have to explain what we're doing. We have to explain in an easy way to what is NFT, what is blockchain. And I really love this the project what Tezos is doing, because I went yesterday at very little time, as I went to the Paris Plus, and I saw the Tezos booth, and it took me 30 seconds to get the wallet and to get an NFT as a present. And I've got this badge. So it was really super nice. It is exactly the way. So, and your exhibition, what you are doing, it's explaining what's happened in a very easy way. And also our exhibition, which is at the OK at the moment, we're doing the same. We have an artist group, Crypto Wieners. So they were the first artists in Austria who tokenized digital art in 2018. And they did. We brought their digital world into reality. So we built the whole stuff in real. And this is really an amazing exhibition. As it's a kind of it's his own metaverse. When you enter the space, you really have to settle, because you don't feel that you're in the real world. So you really feel you are in a metaverse, in a digital world. But it's analog, it's there. Even the table, even the piano, even Mozart is there, And you really can feel their presence, their virtual, their digital presence. And it's so nice. And then we also felt, so what can we do? So the visitors, they go through the exhibition, and at the end, they've got the wallet, and they've got an NFT as a present. But many people are really worrying about this, even worrying about entering a metaverse somehow. So we felt, let's do it also in paper. So if you are worried about, if you don't like your mobile phone, whatever, then you also can get a piece of paper, and you can go through the exhibition, and at the end you have a wallet on paper, and also an artwork on paper, just to explain what the digital world can do for you. And this works out also very well, I have to say. It's a wonderful exhibition. And the other one, which is also a kind of, when we did the proof of art, so we realized we have to do more of this, more explain what's happened, especially what's happened with the metaverse. And then we felt, because the metaverse is, many people, they're really worrying about this. They really are, they're angry about it. And I've got a lot of emails or letters you can't imagine. And then we felt, okay, we also have to explain it on a very low level. Just what is it? And then I always start a discussion like this. Because the metaverse is very human. It's very human. Because our first dream, what we have as a little child, is it's a trip in the metaverse. It's a trip in a parallel world. And so this is the way why we are explaining also the metaverse, the history of the metaverse. And also this is the reason why we have medieval art in this exhibition. And we are really we are just spinning a bridge, building a bridge from the Greek antique world into contemporary. And this works out very well, I have to say. And the people are really taking this exhibition very well. And this is what we really have to take care of it. We have to be careful with the people who are visiting our exhibitions, and we have to explain them very carefully. We have to think before in advance what we do. It's very important.
Yeah, definitely. And I love how you're, again, being a kind of mediator between the two spaces and providing that kind of educational aspect as well. And also you spoke there briefly of kind of audiences, and I think this has become kind of one of the core ideas when we're thinking about Web3 generally. Do you think, and this is to all of you, that since the kind of hype around NFTs of 2021 and this kind of evolving relationship, do you think audiences are becoming more accepting of NFTs or more critical of NFTs?
Maybe I'd like to quickly go back to what Tamar said, and of course Alfred as well. It's about the experience, So user experience is so crucial, and I think this is what we are observing in the exhibition, and we are constantly reviewing. So we have an amazing visitor service team. I mean, we have, of course, the LS team. We have support from TC Connect team being on site and really explaining what is happening, but it is something, exactly, you stand there, you do it yourself, you experience it yourself. I think this really breaks down barriers when it comes to getting in touch with a new technology. Your experience, it's easy in a way. You suddenly have your wallet. I don't know if we manage in 30 seconds, but hopefully it's like a couple minutes or something until the NFT is really there. So I just wanted to stress again, I think the experience, in order to, if you really want to get people excited about a new technology and explore, experiment, being open to something, the user experience needs to be key, and technology needs to work in that case. You don't want frustration or people to wait for, or then I think it's a fine line, so I think it's just as an addition.
I'd just say we will find out in February, but I think definitely there's a lot of onboarding that needs to happen, and I guess I suppose the moment where that becomes more seamless, like that is also when you get less resistance, I suppose, to things. But you're doing incredible work to kind of be the person, be a space that's testing this. You also, in terms of like making that material, I suppose, or like doing the sort of paper route as well, and really acknowledging the different types of audiences that want to, are available to get involved in this space, and acknowledging the fact that not everyone, people need to start from different spaces to be kind of onboarded into this space. I think for us, maybe a lot of it is doing things like, I don't know, we recently, well, this time last year now, launched a Twitch space. So we're trying to do a lot more sort of opening up for back-end conversations and providing a space for people to kind of chuck us, I suppose break down that barrier between official conversations around things and really lean into spaces that people are, actively getting involved and asking like honest questions from every perspective. So I think we've got a lot of learning to do in terms of what will happen in this February moment. And we do really want to learn from other spaces like LAS, for example, like the work that Diane's doing, like the work that Alpha's doing in terms of just, really, exploring what can happen and how much more innate we can make this experience and how much more we can keep onboarding people in a seamless way.
And I have to say the fellowship was actually with 8 institutions. We were talking now about like that Space Foundation, but we are still doing other projects, other experimentation with other institutions. And the fellowship, the Work Weekly, so the first part of this big program, will start again on the 3rd of November, and then the fellowship, and then we will open the call for applications. And then the fellowship will start in February or January next year. I'm just saying that every week we are actually identifying new ways to use the blockchain, and we are really exploring on a daily basis. So what you do in your lab, it's also what you do, it's also what you do. Like, I feel that we are all at this table exploring on a daily basis. It's becoming our routine. And this should be key because we are still there, still in this explorative stage.
Certainly. And before I hand over to the audience for any questions, my final question to all of you would be, we've spoken a little bit about where we are right now, but where would you like this relationship to go? And certainly thinking about, museum professionals watching you right now and listening to you, what would you say to them to help them start their journey into this space?
I want to say just do it, because that was that was something I recall the conversations we had. I was just like, okay, there's a lot of theory. I mean, it's very complex, It's like, I think there are many ideas and ideas that are where you don't know if it's really going to work out, So it stays an experiment until it's really there. But I'm really glad we just did it, and I'm sure it wasn't the fastest and the most straightforward way. It probably went back and forth, so something.
It's part of the journey.
But we got there. It's part of the journey, and I think everyone, all stakeholders, everyone who participated in this would say, yes, it worked out, and the feedback we receive from the audience is very positive, and yeah.
But we need collaborations. This is very important. This is what I feel, because as in the museums world, I can't get more acceptance from a broader audience than from museum staff, museum professionals, because they're still not they're dealing with digital art, what they say, but they're not dealing with tokenized digital art, and they're really worried about. And what I understood is, I'm able to explain Impressionism within 5 minutes, I would say. To explain the blockchain, it's a challenge for some people. It's still a challenge, but it's changing what I see. So what we need, we're really doing a lot of exhibitions of in this art NFT world, or tokenized digital art, or digital art. There are always 2-3 exhibitions at once, and but we need, and really behind every exhibition are collaborations, also with the kind of society that we are built, and this is really a need. We have to work on collaborations, and then this is what I hope in the future, maybe in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we also can do a talk like this one with museum professionals.
I would say really embracing, again, audience as stakeholders, as much as each other, as much as other museums, as much as other galleries. Also acknowledging the fact that, for example, when I say that we do everything as a prototype, we're thinking of the game, for example, as a prototype. We're hoping that, if it is this beta game, what happens if we then collaborate with another institution and, we hand it over in a certain way and say, this is what we've done, this is what our learnings are, how can we continue to develop for the next round, how can we continue to implicate these learnings into the continual development, not only of the artwork, but also of the ecosystem, also of the other people, the players, the stakeholders in that space also.
I think I said it all. Exploration.
We have about 5-6 minutes left. Are there any questions from the audience?
Hi. I was just listening also to what has just been said regarding to the notion of game, if I heard properly. And right now, what are people more, I would say, reactive to? If you have like kind of like immersive experience, like has been done with the Fortnite project, or the fact, so the experience, or the fact that you have artworks which are tokenized, which means also the value. What is what people understand, you know, first, and is actually maybe the first step also to help them to onboard them. Because what I have the feel is like whenever you explain what NFTs are, etc., people are still not understanding the notion of value of that you're bringing in the digital space. And actually, it's really this. This is the core question. And there are a lot discussing about the content, but it's not the content because we had digital art before. So it's like what this notion of value also enables then. And so I was thinking, what is actually, when you see the reactions of people, what is the most easy for them to help them get into, you know, that direction? The game like Fortnite, the notion of like how you display them, are they more sensitive to that before really understanding what the notion of blockchain means?
Is that so? Do people understand the value?
Yes. What is it that actually you see as kind of like triggers, you know, to get people on board into Web3 and really understand the whole point, I would say.
I mean, I think honestly, there's been like I think things don't happen in silos, I suppose, in which, I mean, there is, of course, like a value to there being, you know, a very big visible platform like Fortnite, for example, getting involved in a certain conversation. But it also takes a lot of people, you know, having that critique of certain moments to sort of say this is what is really happening. This is what is really happening. So I don't know if you can kind of separate like a big moment with the smaller ones. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think it's about having those one-on-one conversations as well as much as anything. So if there are big moments that bring attention to something, but as soon as something happens, people are gonna be critical of it, I suppose, because the conversation isn't being communicated in the right way. I think you do need that healthy, like, critical feedback of any project in order to get the discuss and share what the true value is.
And when you display NFTs in all projects, people, is it like a way to make them discover digital art? Or is it like really the blockchain, you know, what the blockchain enables, which starts to be an exciting perspective, I would say, for people? Or is it just actually the content? Because, so my feel now, even if we speak with people who are in museums, people are discussing a lot about content instead of like infrastructure. And I mean, and somehow the notion of tokenization, the core of it is the notion of infrastructure. As I was saying, the fact that you can like have a unicity, rarity, etc. So maybe for museums who wants to also to take part to it and more people to be onboarded, I think it's this kind of like education that should be like done first. And right now, I think people are a lot debating like, is it art or not? That's not the question at all, because you could ask the same question for any painting, I would say. So I don't know if there's a kind of like a work that is being doing also on educating about this notion, I would say, itself.
Yeah. Maybe I can quickly say something to that. I think this is exactly what we are trying to do with the experience we offer. We do have, in addition to the guides who really answer questions and explain in detail what is happening, we do have a extensive wall text, also explaining everything. So you have you do, or we hope the audience has an opportunity to really understand and maybe even question technology behind. So it can be, I guess, on a very general level, but if you're really interested, you'll find a guide who's able to explain even in more detail. So the educational approach is definitely, for us, I would say, one of central, it's a key for us. It's also communicating or trying to translating this complex technology to the audience.
Thank you.
I was just going to add that we haven't shown anything in that sense yet, so it's hard for me to answer that question in that way. But I'd say similarly in terms of sharing some of the back end, the research that we do, taking a look at things like our legal lab, for example, have done amazing Twitch sessions where we have a legal lab headed up by someone called Alana Kushnir, who is looking, for example, the legal implications of NFTs for artists. And we've created, these Twitch sessions as resources for artists. So we're thinking a lot about the different ways we can kind of share the work and the sort of angles that we're coming at it from in the lead up to launching like a sort of more visual commission that does it through artists' work.
I was going to say as well, I do wonder, what I took from your question as well is, I suppose, the idea of are we focusing too much on the infrastructure? Do people need to know what a blockchain does and how it works in order to own an NFT in the first place? And certainly I think what the projects that we've spoken about, all of them here today, provide so much more than just it being like an NFT. The NFT really is just like a tool or just a way to reimagine the experience as opposed to anything in particular. And I think that will be the thing that people will find valuable, not necessarily trying to get them to understand that it's a certificate of ownership or authenticity or it's decentralized and so on and so forth. I think we've probably run out of time unless there's one quick question at all. No, well, I'd just like to thank our panelists very much for this conversation and thank you all for coming to listen.